But yeah, like, based off of what we understand so far, actually, this is gonna be like Omega Rage Bait, but I should do it because it's gonna be funny. Genshin, character, tier maker, Sandrone. Okay, okay. I hope you're ready. I want to talk about how these characters look like they're gonna perform on release, like on Sandrone release with the buffs. So we have Sandrone, we have Wriothesley, we have. I mean, they're all old characters, right? So don't look too deep. Cyno, Yae, Qiqi, Beidou. No, there's two more. There's Diona. Who's the last one? Glorb. I mean, okay, that one isn't real. Okay, so let's talk about how strong these characters are looking as of the 22nd of May with relatively little footage and a lot of things still unconfirmed. But just my vibe of how strong the characters are with the buffs now. Weakest of the bunch, probably Beidou, unfortunately. Her uptime is just a bit too short. Like, she needs a 3 seconds increase in uptime so you can swap into her first instead of later. And suddenly she becomes a lot better. But, like, the fact that if you open your rotation with her, your carry kind of just loses Beidou's buff for the tail end of their uptime is just, like, really bad. Next is Diona, I would say. Diona has a similar issue. Her uptime is even worse than Beidou, but I'd say that being Cryo is kind of just better than being Electro here. Dana's got the hits. I mean, yeah, but it doesn't matter that much. It's not hard to get a lot of stacks on your passive. Like, it'll be pretty trivial if you're on-fielding an Electro or Cryo character to max stack the Stellar Conduct field. But yeah, like, the biggest problem with these two units is just uptime. Uptime and cooldown. Because it'd be fine for 15 seconds uptime if it was also 15-second cooldown and you could just open your rotation with her. But it's a 20-second cooldown, which means if you open your rotation with her, you'll have the 3-second window at the end where she's still on cooldown, so you don't want to swap out of your carry, but your buffs are gone, so you don't want to stay on your carry either. Even worse for Diona, but at least Diona doesn't necessarily want to be swapped into as early, which is nice. And she's got other things to make up for it, so it's like, okay. Her buffs are a bit bigger as well, so yeah. Next is probably Yae. The Stellar shit for Yae is, like, honestly pretty awful, but Stellar teams as a whole are so fucking terrible that a unit that was at Yae's power level pre-changes is still kind of, like, pretty close to making the cut, and her C1 is going to be pretty useful for these teams as well. Next is probably Sandrone. Oh boy, this unit is kinda chopped. Yeah, the fact that Yae works the bad way instead of the good way is, like, a massive gimp. It basically divides the amount of Stellar Conduct damage she deals by 2. And I know someone's gonna fucking clip it and post it on YouTube, so I will quickly explain the good way versus the bad way. The passive that gives the Stellar hit is whenever you trigger a reaction, a Stellar Conduct or Super, but basically whenever you trigger a Stellar Conduct reaction, Yae's next hit will deal Stellar Conduct damage. But in a lot of these teams, you want to run Yae as solo Electro, so the character that is triggering the reaction is Yae herself. But Yae effectively only has one of her turrets applying Electro, right? She has 3 turrets, and they have standard ICD and hit every 2.9 seconds, but we'll just say it's 3. So basically, one turret, whenever it hits, will apply Electro, and the other 2, whenever they hit, don't apply Electro. So you trigger the reaction with your first turret, which means that the second turret has the Stellar bonus hit. Cool. Great. Pog. But then when the first turret attacks again and applies Electro again, it hasn't been 2.5 seconds since the second turret used the buff. And it works the bad way. The cooldown starts when the second turret uses the buff, not when the first turret obtains the buff. Which means that the first turret does not get the buff on the second time it hits, and only gets the buff the third time it hits. So you get one Stellar hit every 6 hits instead of every 3 hits, if she's solo Electro. And in a lot of these teams, she will be. So it's, like, bad. It's, like, bad. But like I said, right, even then, right, she still has a little bit of damage from casting her skill now, and, like, even that relatively small amount of damage on top of what she was already doing, because these teams just don't have that much DPS, is kind of, like, enough to justify using her. And then if you ever see one, which you can get from the Selector, she's also just an okay-ish buffer, right? So it's, like, okay. Next is probably Qiqi. Qiqi is a little weird. Like, the numbers on her bursts are, like, okay, but they're not amazing. and the buff from her skill is worse than what you get from Diona. In a lot of teams, you're not even gonna press the burst button. But honestly, that kind of just doesn't matter. The reality is that just having a unit that is, as it turns out, generating particles for your on-fielder, right? This particle generation happens over time from your skill hits, so your on-fielder will catch them. So if like it helps your Sandrone ER requirements or whatever. The fact that her uptime and duration are the same gives her a lot more flexibility in rotations. It's the same 15-second duration as Beidou, but it's also a 15-second cooldown. On top of that, it's a skill, not a burst, so you can do some weird shit with Sack, where you do like an 8-second rotation and then a 16-second rotation, or you do like Qiqi E at the start of your first of your setup with Sack, then you go do the rest of your setup. Maybe you do one Sandrone charge attack, then you go back to Qiqi, and because of the Sack proc, you can E again. And even in rotations that are not 15 seconds, you can still have full uptime on this skill. It's just a lot of flexibility, which I think is enough to make her better than these units, but I'm not entirely sure. Honestly, part of that is a result of the unit that's going to be the best working very well with Qiqi, but we'll talk about that in a second. Next is Wriothesley. Wriothesley is in a state where his numbers are kind of just better than Sandrone's, but because he doesn't activate Stellar Conduct, he needs to have Sandrone on his team and has no synergy with having Sandrone on his team, so it kind of gimps his teams to be about as good as Sandrone instead of significantly better. I think that because we're very likely to see some supports that enable the reaction eventually, unless they have something that like needs you to have Sandrone on the team as well, I kind of expect them to just be better with Wriothesley than with Sandrone. To be fair, part of me kind of expects them to do that. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they did. So maybe I shouldn't put Wriothesley here. Maybe I should put Wriothesley like here instead. That's probably fair. Sure, let's put Wriothesley here instead. Yeah, and then finally, Cyno. Dude, what are they cooking? So right now, with the latest information we have, supposedly the EM scaling on Cyno's passive, the 600 EM to the Stellar Conduct hit, supposedly gets increased by your EM multiplier, and that kind of makes Cyno like an actual good unit, not just a good Stellar Conduct unit. Like straight up, Cyno with a 3-unit team that is slotting in Sandrone so he can activate the passive is like ahead of one cost Zabai in a similar range to like Flimsy Nefa without Columbina, based on what I've looked at so far, which is like kind of crazy. I have to be missing something. Either that, or the EM multiplier doesn't apply to the EM scaling, or they're gonna nerf him, I think, because I feel like there's no way this stays the case. Oh yeah, and by the way, right, like the team I've calced for him so far was Cyno, Sucrose, Qiqi, Sandrone, and I'm getting C1 Cyno at 120k in that team, assuming that you just stay on Cyno until you get your eye, like you E, then stay until you get your eye, because in case you didn't see the pinned comment on the video I posted yesterday, you do get the eye from just using skill. But yeah, so you use your skill, you stay until you get the eye, you use the skill again, and then you go to Sucrose, refresh VV, go to Qiqi, use your E if it's available, otherwise just fucking hit the enemy until your E hits with Cryo, so you can refresh Instructor, and then you go back to Cyno. The thing is, Sucrose works really weirdly, where when you buff Sucrose's EM, she actually uses her buffed EM stat to buff the rest of the party, and as far as I'm aware, there is no non-percentage EM buff that Sucrose can't use for this. So I'm expecting the C1 Cyno buff to work the same way. And because these are 8-second rotations, where you just do one eye on Cyno and then refresh your buffs and then just keep repeating that, when you swap to Sucrose, Instructor is still up and Cyno's C1 is up. So Sucrose has an extra 320 EM, and she gives 20% of that to... Oh, my bad. She gives 20% of that to Cyno. So Cyno gets an extra 64 EM just from that. And because Cyno has EM scaling that scales with his EM multiplier, it just creates a feedback loop that makes him just really fucking strong. Now, if that league that said that he... that his EM scaling actually does look at the EM multiplier was not true. If it doesn't look at the EM multiplier, this Cyno personal DPS goes from 120k to 46k. So let's just hope that it works this way. Because otherwise, Cyno is like, without a doubt, the worst one of the bunch. Like, complete dog shit. Like, he's either the best or the worst, no in between. But yeah, so that's kind of cool, honestly. I'm actually, like, so hyped for the Cyno rotations you're going to be able to do now. Which is not a good sign, by the way. Like, the fact that I'm excited for it means that it's going to work the bad way. Are you getting Sandrone? I was, like, planning on it, but I'm not sure anymore. I don't think I'll make my decision until we have the leaks for the patch after Sandrone. Alright, so until her release, basically. You actually pull for meta? I mean, partly, yeah. Not only for meta, but it's an important factor in my decision-making, yeah. I hope Sandrone gets a buff. Me too, actually. Because, like, if she doesn't get a buff, there's three possibilities, right? One, actually 4 possibilities. Possibility number 1, the Stellar Conduct supports don't allow you to trigger Stellar Conduct, and Wriothesley's teams are doomed to have a dead Sandrone in there forever. Awful, right? 2, the Stellar Conduct support are just pretty bad. Sandrone ends up being pretty bad. Whatever, forgettable. Okay, I guess, like, eh. 3, the Stellar Conduct supports are good, and Sandrone is good, and Wriothesley is really fucking good, which I doubt would happen. And 4, which is probably the most likely if she doesn't get buffed, and probably the worst possible thing that could happen. The Stellar Conduct supports are good, but they only buff Cryo Stellar Conduct damage, so they don't work for Cyno, and they heal, so they don't work for Wriothesley. And I would much rather if they just make her stronger than Wriothesley, and make those Stellar Conduct supports a bit weaker to compensate, so that Wriothesley can actually use them. But I don't think they're gonna do that. I would expect them to just, yeah. Yeah, or I mean, okay, them buffing Sandrone and them nerfing Wriothesley are effectively the same thing. Well, not really, but, like, you get the point, right? It would lead to similar expectations for future characters. I hope they do one of the two. I would prefer if they buff Sandrone, because I think it's better if you're not forced to pull for multiple units to make your favorite unit good. But the main thing is, like, if they don't buff Sandrone and they don't nerf Wriothesley, that's bad for Wriothesley. Because that means they're going to artificially make him not work with a Stellar Conduct support to make you feel like you have to go for Sandrone. Like, that would actively be bad in the long term for Wriothesley's Stellar Conduct teams if he gets released in a state where he's kind of just better than Sandrone. Like, that's just cooked. Is he that much better? No, but he is a bit better. The main thing is Wriothesley just spends less time on field. Whatever. So it looked like Wriothesley sucks. I mean, yeah, but, like, Sandrone sucks worse. Like...
Goose on the loose!
Yeah!
Goose on the loose!
Goose on the loose!